With me is Joe Bourke, the Liberal Democrat candidate for Brentford and Isleworth. Hello.
Hello, Bridget.
First thing I wanted to ask you is, do you think you're going to win this election?
Do I think I'm going to win? Probably not. But we polled 23% in the last election in 2010. That was pretty close. That was basically the national average for Liberal Democrats. We're polling nationally about 10 or 11% at the moment. So I expect to at least achieve that level of support. But I do think that Liberal Democrats nationally essentially have a good opportunity to be part of the next coalition government if the opinion polls are anything to go by and there's another essentially hung parliament.
It's ironic, isn't it? Because, as you say, you are unlikely to win, but nationally you are likely to be kingmakers.
Well, we're certainly, there's an opportunity to be part of the next government that is formed, whether whether the largest party is the Conservative Party or the Labour government. I think the Liberal Democrats can be a benign influence in any government.
Okay, well let's talk about how that works. What have you learnt from being in coalition?
Well, essentially, the Liberal Democrats over the last 5 years, I think, have learned a number of things. First is that more of the policies that Liberal Democrats developed prior to the election were implemented, perhaps than many expected. The increase in the personal allowance to $10,500 was a top-line policy in the Liberal Democrat manifesto. The pupil premium, $2.5 billion invested in disadvantaged children, essentially was a big priority in the Liberal Democrat manifesto, and these policies were actually implemented in government. But
people aren't going to forgive you for the university fees, are they? My kids are 25 and 21. 4 years between them. One is paying 3 times the amount for their education than the other, and they blame you.
Well, it's a perception. I mean, what I think we need to bear in mind is that tuition fees were introduced in 1998 by the Labour government, initially £1,000. They were trebled then, again under the Labour government, to £3,000. At the last election, essentially, although Liberal Democrats would like to see tuition fees abolished, the state of the economy was such that there was no feasible way that policy could be delivered. And when you're in a coalition, you have to compromise. And with the country viewing on near bankruptcy at that time, what the Liberal Democrats did was essentially develop a program that was akin to a graduate tax. And what's happening now is that students don't actually pay anything until they've left university, and they're earning over £21,000. And students pay less now in repayments than up to about £40,000 of income than what they did under the previous system.
But I haven't heard much about scrapping the fees this time round.
No, I think as far as tuition fees are concerned, I think there is no party, perhaps the Green Party is the exception, that would go back to essentially having taxpayer funding only of university students. There's been big changes when 5 or 10% of students or school leavers went to university. It was possible to fund that from the general education budget, but with 40 to 50% of students, school leavers now opting to go to university, that's no longer a practical proposition.
I interrupted you actually when you said you're about to say the most important thing you'd learned from the coalition, and I interrupted you. So please tell me, what was that?
Well, I think the experience essentially is that a party like the Liberal Democrats can be a very significant moderating influence on what otherwise can be rather extreme ideologies.
So are you in the position to be talking about red lines, though? Because Nick Clegg is talking about a red line in education. Meanwhile, David Cameron is talking about no tax increases, no income tax increases for 5 years. That doesn't add up. How does that going to work?
Well, yeah, I mean, no tax increases for 5 years. I mean, William Hague said that in 1999. I think Ken Clarke, who was, a rather more sensible chancellor, tried to explain to him that no one knows exactly how the economy is going to go over the next 5 years, and that's a totally impractical policy. In terms of education funding, all of the mainstream parties are committed to maintaining or essentially ring-fencing education funding. So in terms of a red line, yes, it is a red line for Liberal Democrats, but one that's fairly easy for any other party to essentially acknowledge and agree to, I think.
Okay, and so finally, the question that has been asked of Lib Dems for decades, why should people vote for you? Is it not a wasted vote?
Absolutely not. I mean, if you think about just this constituency, you think about Chiswick in particular, the polls tell us that there is little prospect of a Conservative MP being re-elected at present, or at least the last Ashcroft poll has indicated that. So with many Conservative MPs, they will not vote for a Labour candidate. Many Labour candidates will not vote for a Conservative, or Labour supporters will not vote for a Conservative. What you will find is that many Conservative voters will consider a Liberal Democrat alternative, and many Labour voters also will consider a Liberal Democrat alternative, and did so last time. So Liberal Democrats essentially has a long history as a party. We essentially are a party that goes back to the original Liberal Party. It's been here for 150 years. Each election we may do better, as we did last time, with 23% of the votes, perhaps not so well this time. But the party essentially continues, and we expect to be here long after the election and to fight many elections to come.